GM, and welcome back to the coziest part of Solana's finest podcast, Sol Brothers, markets, prices, charts, and technical analysis. On Monday, I told you that the bottom might be in, and let me tell you, the bottom might be in. we have
I was
some further
actually hoping for a
confirmation.
little bit more of a dip.
Yeah, bro. Like we dipped enough. Like the dip kept dipping. There might be one more dip, so don't worry, don't you worry. But it might take a while until it comes. And for now, I think we are at least in a bounce back, right? So it could be a rally to support levels or resistance levels to the upside before we see another bounce, or it could be a turnaround, right, to new highs. But either way, we've been so oversold on all the charts, especially on Bitcoin, that bounce was due at some point, and that I've been telling this since 2 weeks now. Basically, a little bit too early because we kept dipping, but the bounce was due. So, shall we look at the charts and try to make sense of where we are right now?
Yeah, let's look at the charts, try to see whether or not this was the shortest bear market in history.
I mean, it was. We can call it a little trap, right? That looked like we're going to enter a bear market, but actually, like if you look at the Bitcoin chart here, the first resistance area was definitely broken, right? Which was the simple moving average line here, the yellow line. And you all remember we talked about this a few times until the break, right, happened. And we were hoping for a rebounds, which would be that would have been a direct bullish scenario. But we dipped far more than that. But it was just a bit of it was honestly a bit crazy, right? Like we saw double-digit billions in liquidations in the crypto markets over the course of 1 month, right? Only in November. Which is insane. It's a huge amount. We never saw that. We saw a fear and greed index below FTX crash levels. So there was definitely something was off, and people started to speculate. And I saw a lot of posts asking if there's like they're coming up with some conspiracy theories, basically, like if crypto is dead and if something crazy happened, and because no one really understood what's going on. But then we look at the chart and we're like, okay, we see a bounce. It was eventually 35% decline from Bitcoin all-time high at 126, all the way down to where did we land? 80K, right? In the lowest wick. 35%, is that shocking for Bitcoin over like a few weeks? I mean,
For Bitcoin, yes, absolutely. For Solana, not so much, but for Bitcoin, just because of the amount of capital in there. And yeah, it's a small drop in the bucket compared to, like, let's say, gold. But yeah, it is
yeah,
quite a big drop.
it is a big drop, but also we've seen these drops before, right? Like, it's not the first time that this asset breaks down. So I think people were shocked, which is okay, that's fair, but not to an extent where you're like, oh, this industry is dead. Because we've seen 40% dips. Actually, we've seen 40% dips every single time. Not every single time, but a majority of times when the daily RSI dipped below 30 in oversold territory. Like usually there was a dip in that extent that led to it. Look at some of these wicks here in 2022. Like that is painful. And compared to this, what we saw right now is like such a drop on a stone, on a hot stone. Like it's gone. So I think we're doing okay. We saw the RSI dipping fairly below 30 on the Bitcoin chart. And again, as always, it's a very good indicator, a very stupid but simple indicator that tells you when Bitcoin hits such an oversold RSI level, it is usually a good time to at least buy spot. Leverage difficult because you never know how much more it can dip, because here you see it goes below, but then there's another dip below. So if you buy spot here at that level based on this indicator, and then you just wait for, let's see, 2 months, right? You'll be in profit, right? And that is probably that was probably true every single time the RSI hit below 30. And with such a significant drop here, there has to be a rebound. Is this going to bring us to new all-time highs? We don't know that yet. The confirmation is missing for now. But at least we see a very strong reaction right now to that support zone. And again, that support zone is exactly the zone that I was watching as well on the Bitcoin chart to provide support. We bounced there as the next basically resistance level before or after we did the break of the simple moving average. And when it comes to Solana, it behaved fairly similar. We also had like fairly oversold territory down here. We broke the 30 RSI, not too crazy, right? We didn't go to 20 or something, but we reached 27, still fairly oversold down here. And we're right now also seeing a really strong reaction to that support zone out here, which was the 100% extension for the C wave in red. That might be completed. Now I added another scenario on the chart since last time, which is the yellow scenario here that starts up here on the 25th of September in a yellow wave 1 down, wave 2 up, and then a wave 3, which brought us down to where we are right now, an impulsive wave 3. Now, that scenario would indicate that is the bearish scenario right now that I still have on my chart. That would mean we're right now in a fourth wave bounce. So this is just a recovery to the upside before a further dump. So that would support the idea of maybe rallying through December, maybe until mid-end December, but then seeing another flush maybe after holidays or in the New Year's or in January. That would support this thesis. What real life events could trigger that? I don't really know right now, because right now it looks actually from a macro point of view, it looks more plausible that we are on our way to complete this down movement here and go further up again. I'll get to that in a second, but here in the yellow scenario, that would mean we are gonna stop somewhere between 156 and 183, maybe a little bit higher even, if we extend to a higher FIB level, which is possible. We can definitely also see the 786 FIB at $200, also realistic for a fourth wave correction, right? To correct that third wave to the downside, this one here. So that would mean we're gonna keep pumping, and we're gonna return somewhere here, and then break down again in a fifth wave. That is everything is bullish right now. I don't have a bear scenario in the short term, but there would be the bearish midterm scenario where we see one more low. So if you want another dump, then you might get it over there for another chance to buy in cheap. But before that, we'd see higher prices. Now, I think that is realistic, but also looking at the chart right now here, how it develops to the upside here, I think we're starting to form some 5-wave move structures actually on the chart that we could start to map out as well. So for example, here we can draw one. Let's use yellow, or let's use a different color for this one. Let's use green. So this green one here, you would see a wave 1, a wave 2. Then we have an impulse to the upside, 3, 4, 5. And that completed right now. And it stopped right at the resistance level that I also watched here on the chart, because we have strong resistance up here at the $145, right? That's exactly where we got stopped. And that was technically a 5-wave move to the upside, which is the first indicator of bullish momentum picking up again. Now, if we now see an A, B, C, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we're on our way up, right? That will take probably another 2-3 weeks to see if that really happens. Until we see that, right now it's not my primary scenario. I'm still keep watching this fourth wave to play out in an A, B, C. But the more proof we see that the low might be in, so in the next sessions, when we look at this chart again, my thesis might shift more and more towards the bull case. And we do have some fundamental news as well, some macro news that would support such a case, right?
Well, what kind of macro news are you looking at?
I mean, one thing that piqued my interest was the news about the Ukraine war that we just saw.
Oh, that? Well, I mean, we might as well start with that, right? So, a couple of pieces of news. The White House claims that Ukraine has agreed to a peace deal, and with just a few details to be sorted out. This is not a picture of Zelensky recently. This is from a previous visit at the White House. But take it with a grain of salt. Even the Russians have an official statement saying that by Wednesday, it's premature to say that a resolution is close. Also, there is no word on the Ukrainian side at all whether or not they're close to a peace deal. We're taking the White House's word for it. You've seen this with the agreement that was negotiated with the White House between Hamas and the state of Israel. They were able to kind of take a very shaky, tentative agreement on both sides with pressure on the Israelis to finally end the war officially between Israel and Hamas. So they're trying to run the same playbook here, where they prematurely announce and hope that all parties will come on board. But this time around, the Russians have firmly rebuffed any signal that they are ready to end the war. And the Ukrainians as well, I think, are closer to making concessions that they previously would not have agreed to. But with the amount of support that the White House is offering these days, which is very little to Ukraine, it means that at some point the Ukrainians have to look at their lack of tactical advantage and might have to capitulate. So TLDR, they're trying to run the same peace deal playbook that they did with Israel and Hamas. It does not seem like it's going the right way, at least the way that the White House wants it. So still to be seen whether or not the war in Ukraine is actually over, but most likely not.
Okay. So a bit of fake news coming out from the White House here, or at least they're front running.
Yeah, no, they're trying to. This is the type of deal making that you see all the time in like private enterprise. You just don't normally see the biggest, largest military power in the world pulling moves like this. But the Trump White House is comfortable approaching global politics like a business deal, which isn't always necessarily bad, by the way. I'm not one to say that that's always a bad idea. But in this specific case, it did not work out, from what I can tell.
Interesting. All right, we want to keep watching this. I mean, the war has been dragging since years now, and actually insane if you think about it. But anyway, any resolution of that conflict will be good for economy and humanity, obviously. So I think we still yet to see that. So that might be good news that we can look forward to, at least in 2026. On another unrelated matter, you can pull up my screen real quick. Just 10 seconds here. Fed decision in December. Current state of it, 25 bips decrease has the highest chance according to Polymarket, which would be medium bullish for the markets because it would be a rate cut, which is better than no rate cut, which currently has a 16% chance. And currently it seems highly unlikely to get a 50 basis point rate cut in December. So we're going to look forward to that FOMC meeting later in December. It's going to happen December 10th, actually. So not too far, slightly before breakpoint. So if they're going to pull the 50 basis point decrease, then this would be very, very bullish for the markets. But for now, we're going to expect 25%, which should move the prices only slightly, maybe provide a little bit of volatility.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. In other news that's somewhat in the macro region is Tether has become the largest independent holder of gold in the world, with only central banks owning more. This is a growing trend with stablecoins. They have to be collateralized by some sort of underlying asset. Obviously, they're going to go for assets that they feel will best back the reserve. And so that's why stablecoins like Tether and Circle are not only one of the largest holders of gold in the world, but also one of the largest holders of U.S. Treasury bills. And I love this little graphic from Crypto Sam, who says, "Why are they buying gold instead of digital gold?" And the goose is changing, screaming, "Why are they buying gold instead of digital gold?" And for those of you who don't know, Tether actually holds a very large supply of Bitcoin as well. So, they have both.
They do have both, but they are fairly active in gold acquisition right now. If you think about it, like to reach a state where you are considered to be close to what central banks are acquiring in gold. That's insane. I think right now I read in an article, I don't know if we have the exact number, but it was like 12% or something of the amount that all central banks are holding in gold that is held by Tether. I was like, okay, that is significant. That is like a significant financial player these days. And if you are asking yourself why gold is surging so much in the past actually this year was a record year since 1970 something for gold when it comes to price appreciation. And it was mainly driven by central banks and Tether, I guess, acquiring gold like it's cheap, but they just kept buying, which is very interesting. And now I also have some articles that I just read in the morning today, which says central banks will end up holding Bitcoin in their reserves, even though it's backed by nothing. Deutsche Bank predicts. First of all, that's the counter case, right? So Tether acquiring gold as a crypto company, but now we also have headlines that say, okay, but central banks are also going to start acquiring Bitcoin. And at least they're considering acquiring Bitcoin because it has a fairly similar risk profile by now. Okay, that is probably not right to say now, but there is charts that actually, if you overlay them, gold and Bitcoin, and you put the different vertical axes on them, so one axis gold price, one axis Bitcoin price, they behaved in a similar way, with definitely more volatility on the Bitcoin chart, but both went up and to the right at the same time, basically. And I think we could actually see that the digital gold is gonna become more interesting as well for central banks, next to governments and private companies already now acquiring Bitcoin as part of their reserve strategies. But central banks is going to be a different level. So that is definitely bullish macro news, by the way, for Bitcoin in the long term. Excited to see how that's going to play out for real. We'll see. Probably sooner than later.
Yep. And so that wraps up the comfiest part of the podcast. Simon, take it away.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining the little TA and macro session, for your weekly updates on prices, charts, and technical analysis, and some macro news as well. If you like that content, subscribe to our YouTube, please. Like the video, leave a comment, and make sure as well to check out our other videos, because we are talking about Solana news and everything that happens in the Solana ecosystem as well every single week. Until then, thank you so much for listening.
Auf Wiedersehen.